This first problem is about finding the slope of a line. Again, ignore the first words. You always look at the end where it says, again, find the slope. So when you're finding the slope, you always want to write the equation first, which is the change in y over change in x, so delta y over delta x. And that's the same thing as the rise of the graph to the run of the graph. So once you identify the equation, then you have to pick 2 points. The easiest thing to do is pick 2 easily read points on the graph, and then you just write them down. Now you actually plug it into your formula, so you have to find how much it changed. So it went from 85 to 42.5 to 85, so the difference of 42.5, and then went over 5. So the rise over run in this case comes out to be simplified to 8.5. Then you identify where your answer would be, and that's the same thing as 17 over 2. Alright, this particular problem, again, I recommend look at the end of the problem, and it says find the x-intercept of the graph. So the x-intercept is where the line crosses the x-axis. Alright, and on this graph you can't really see because it goes off the chart. So let's start by trying to write an equation. So if you read the words in the problem, it says that you start at a 40-foot utility pole. So that's your y-intercept. So if you look at your graph, you start at a y-intercept of 40. Alright, then it says that you approach at 10 feet per second, a negative 10 feet per second. So if you look at your slope, it's negative 10, down 10 over 1. So now we can write an equation, y equals negative 10x plus b. Again, the negative 10 is your slope, the 40 is your y-intercept. Alright, now if you're finding the x-intercept, you have to set y equal to 0. So you plug in 0 for y, and then you solve the equation. So if you move the 40 over, that gets you negative 40 equals negative 10x. And then you divide by negative 10, so you get the x value of 4. So this is the coordinate, 4, 0. And now you just have to identify which answer that would be on the selection. In this particular problem, we're going to be, again, I encourage you on these problems, look at the end, find the slope of the line of the graph of the equation. So we're looking for slope. Now if you notice in the problem, they give you an equation. So I would immediately look at the equation. We have 7x plus 2y equals 98. Now in order to find the slope, you want to rearrange this into slope-intercept form, which is y equals mx plus b. Alright, so if I have to move the x term, I'm going to have to move that 7x. The opposite of 7x is negative 7x. So if you notice there, I move the 7x by putting minus 7x. And then you always write the x term before the constant. So then you would say 2y equals negative 7x plus 98. Now you have to get rid of the 2, so you divide everything by 2. And so your final equation is the y equals negative 7 half x plus 49. Now the slope is what's in front of the x, which is negative 7 halves. Alright, whenever you have these problems, again, I always encourage you to look near the end, ignore the first words. So in this problem it says find the slope of the line. So we immediately should write down our equation for slope, which is the change in y over change in x. So our rise over our run. So now we have to look and identify for 2 points. So we've got 2 points up there. Now you rewrite the points and then you find the slope. So the change in y, it's going up and it's going over. So when you find the difference between those points, it comes out to be 4.5 over 1, which simplifies to just 4.5. Now you can either write the answer as 4.5 or 9 over 2. Both of those would be acceptable. Alright, this particular problem, again, scroll to the end in your mind. So it says best describes the y-intercept. So all we care about is the y-intercept of this particular equation. So right now there is no equation that's given, so you have to come up with some sort of creation. Now this is a very common type of problem when you have these 2 objects at different rates. Normally you take the first object and you call that your x, and then the second object is your y, the pedicures. So in this case it's $20 each manicure, so you say 20x, plus $25 each pedicure, 25y, equals 300, which is the total money, which was up at the very top of the problem. Now it asks for the y-intercept, so you have to set x equal to 0. So when you plug in 0, the x term drops out, and you're left with 25y equals 300. If you divide both sides by 25, that gets you y equals 12. Now keep in mind, this 12 isn't the cost of each pedicure. It is the greatest, it's the number of pedicures. So don't pick C by mistake. It's D. In this particular problem, you have to notice that we have the equation y equals 60 plus 0.02x. Scroll to the end to see what it's asking for. So it says identify the x-intercept and the y-intercept. So in order to find the x-intercept, you always have to set y equal to 0. So the first thing you do is set y equal to 0, and then you plug in the numbers and solve. So you've got to move the 60 to the other side, and you'll get x equals negative 3,000. Once you figure out your x-intercept, you now know that's negative 3,000 comma 0. And the y-intercept you can just get from the equation. Again, the y is the b, so the plus 60. So that's why the answer is D. In this particular problem, again, read the question. It says to find the slope and y-intercept. So I immediately look at the graph, and in order to find the y-intercept, you can just see where it crosses the y-axis, which is 40. So if you see where the line crosses, so that's your y-intercept. Now the slope, you need to identify 2 points. I picked the points 120, 76, and the other one I picked was 200, 126. So obviously it's going up, so the rise is rise over run. So the rise is 48 in this problem, and when you find the difference in the x, you find it's over 160. And when you do 48 divided by 160, you get 0.3. So your y-intercept was 0, 40, and your slope, 0.3, was 3/10. Alright, this particular problem, it's telling you to find the slope. So in order to find a slope, you need to have 2 points. Well, in this case, it's kind of difficult to tell what the points are. So the key is look for the variables. It says that x is the picture frames, and y is the hours. So I immediately identify a point, x, y, where x is the frames, y is the hours. So now you read the problem, and it says that there's 4 picture frames every 2 hours. So that is a coordinate. So you say 4 frames every 2 hours. The next one is 9 frames every 4.5. So 9, 4.5. So now once you have your 2 points, you just do rise over run, or delta y over delta x. So from 2 to 4.5, it goes up 2.5, and over from 4 to 9 is 5. So it's 2.5 over 5, which simplifies to 0.5, or 1/2. Alright, in this particular problem, again, scroll to the end so you see identify the y-intercept for the equation. Now you look to see the equation, which is y equals negative 50 plus 2x. This is already in slope-intercept form, so all I would do is rearrange it. So I'd move the negative 50 at the end, so you say y equals 2x and then negative 50. And the last part is your y-intercept, which we know from y equals mx plus b. So your y-intercept is negative 50. Alright, this particular problem, again, you read the end of the problem. It says, what is the x-intercept of the equation of the line? The difficulty with this one is they don't actually give you an equation. So the first thing you need to do is we know it's going to be a linear relationship, so you write down y equals mx plus b. So in order to find an equation, you need the slope and the y-intercept. Now the y-intercept represents the starting point. Alright, so if we look at this, it says Caleb is 6 miles from his home and begins skateboarding towards the house at 5 miles per hour. So he starts at 6 miles away. So your y-intercept would be 6 miles away. Alright, now he's approaching at 5 miles per hour. So it's getting closer at 5 miles every hour. So it's negative 5 times x, which is the number of hours. So your equation is y equals negative 5x plus 6. Now to find the x-intercept, you have to set y equal to 0. So you plug in 0 for y, and then you solve the equation. So you got to move the 6, then divide by negative 5, and you get x equals 1.2, which means after 1.2 hours, he would be home.